Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant, and this is the second installment in the series on Alexander the Great. So this is Alexander the Great Part 2, and it seems like people like that so much because people are telling me, hey, when is the second part coming? I'm doing the whole series all year. The whole Bumbleclad series, I'm doing all of it. Because, I'm really interested in Alexander and Ting, where I'll go on with him. So, go ahead and like this video, share this video, and comment down below. Tell me what you know. Teach a brother something, you know what I mean? But let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer. Let's go, Alexander!
In 334 BC, Alexander, the 21-year-old king of Macedonia, led a coalition of Greek forces against the greatest power of the age, the Persian Empire. He led an army of skilled veterans. At its heart, men of the Macedonian phalanx, armed with the 18-foot Sarissa pike, and the elite horsemen of his companion cavalry. Together, at the Battle of the River Granicus, they'd won a first decisive victory over the Persian army. Now, as Alexander approached Sardis, capital of the Persian province of Lydia, its commander surrendered without a fight.
Wow, he's like, I give up.
But before Alexander could advance further, he needed to neutralize Persian naval power. Persia had a powerful fleet with major naval bases around the eastern Mediterranean that could potentially cut his lines of communication back to Greece. Rather than challenge the Persians at sea, Alexander decided to attack its nearest bases, the Greek coastal cities of Miletus.
That dude was smart, militarily speaking. I guess he was smart politically speaking too, to do this here, you know what I mean? But let's not attack them from sea because they have a strong fleet. Let's do it. I guess he's going to do it from land. Man is thinking big time. That's, you know what I'm saying? Where they least expected, where they least expected.
And Halicarnassus. Both put up determined resistance, but were taken by winter.
Wow.
Following spring of 333 BC, Alexander continued his advance into Lycia and Phrygia. At Gordium, he was shown the legendary Gordian Knot. A prophecy said that whoever could unpick it would rule all Asia. Alexander simply took his sword and sliced it in half.
Divide and rule. Or divide and conquer.
Memnon of Rhodes, a skilled Greek general in Persian service, led Persian warships into the Aegean and captured the islands of Chios and Lesbos. But after Memnon's sudden death from illness, the offensive was abandoned.
Oh, wow. The old adage that when the leader dies, the nation crumbles. In this case, the leader of the charge died, so then the initiative subsided. "18
months had passed since Alexander's army crossed the Hellespont and invaded the Persian Empire. Now, Alexander led his men into Cilicia.
He's going in. He's taking city by city
to cross the Nur Mountains into Syria. But then, the main Persian army, led by King Darius III himself, emerged behind the Greek army to the north.
Wow.
Darius was determined to trap and destroy Alexander's army, which he outnumbered almost 2 to 1. So he blocked Alexander's only escape route by moving his army to the coastal plain near Issus, just 6 miles wide, from mountains to sea. The narrow battlefield would force Alexander to fight, but it also prevented Darius exploiting his huge numerical advantage. His army, by some estimates, was up to 100,000 strong.
Wow.
And contained some of the finest soldiers in his vast empire.
Manpower.
Including 10,000 of his own household troops, known as the Immortals. His best cavalry were massed on his right towards the sea, where the ground was better for horses. His best infantry, his Greek mercenary hoplites, formed the center. Persian infantry formed his left wing.
It took some planning for this
Alexander
stuff.
deployed his own army for battle, once again entrusting his left wing, nearest the sea, to Parmenion, with the Greek cavalry and infantry. In the center, as always, was the Macedonian phalanx.
Phalanx.
Alexander positioned himself and his best troops on the right wing toward the mountain slopes. His elite Agriane javelin throwers, his archers, and behind them the Hypaspists and the companion cavalry. When Alexander saw the strength of the Persian cavalry facing Parmenion on the left, he moved across his Thessalian cavalry to reinforce him. Despite his overwhelming numbers, Darius held his position behind a small river, the Pinarus, and waited for Alexander to attack. He didn't have to wait long.
How did they communicate there? I'm gonna have to look that up. I mean, because nowadays you have radios, you know what I mean, and they talk to each other. But imagine how they communicate there when they don't have radios and stuff like that. And it seems to me like it's a vast area that they're fighting in, and the chaos. How do they communicate if they don't have modern day equipment? Of course, obviously they did, because many battles were fought, and of course Alexander won. But did they have riders going back and forth? And what if the rider didn't get there to tell what is happening or something? Of course, to his close quarter combat, so I guess they could hear it. So did they have their own yells and stuff that tells his side that, hey, your allies are coming or something like that? Tell me how it was done.
Alexander called out to his men, urging them to fight bravely, picking out some by name. Then, at the head of his army's right wing, he charged. Once again, the speed and shock of the Macedonian advance sent the enemy reeling back. But in the center of the battlefield, the Macedonian phalanx was in trouble. In its effort to keep up with Alexander, its formation had become disordered. Now, in fierce fighting with Darius's Greek mercenaries, the phalanx was slowly being driven back.
Oh.
Alexander, seeing the danger, regrouped and led the companions in a headlong charge straight at the Persian center. The Greek mercenaries threatened on their flank were soon in disarray, and the Macedonian phalanx was able to resume its advance. Alexander fought his way towards the great king Darius himself. Rather than face this apparently mad and fearless Macedonian king, Darius fled the battlefield in his royal chariot.
My man, turn and run.
Meanwhile, the Macedonian left wing under Parmenion was in a desperate fight against the best of the Persian cavalry. If the Persians could break through here, they could envelop Alexander's army and snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. But Parmenion and his troops fought doggedly and continued to hold the Persians at bay. As the news that Darius had fled spread among his troops, they abandoned the fight and tried to save themselves.
Oh, that one got me.
The battle turned into a massacre. Ptolemy, one of the Macedonian commanders, told Alexander there were so many Persian dead, his men had used them to fill a deep ravine so they could cross over it. The Battle of Issus was a stunning victory for Alexander. And amongst the spoils of victory were Darius's wife, mother, and 3 children.
Oh.
All taken alive and well treated by Alexander. With the Persian field army...
That's another thing back in the day. I know there probably was people that didn't do this, but it seems like a lot of the great generals and leaders like Alexander, when they capture people, there's no waterboarding and all that crazy torture going on, you know what I mean? I guess like the foot soldiers wouldn't really have intel that they would need. You know, they just know where they're going, but they don't know where everybody else is going. And that's what I'm assuming. But, you know, treat them like human beings when you capture them. Of course, that's after inhumane action. You know what I'm saying?
Army in retreat, Alexander now turned to subduing the western territories of the Persian Empire.
Oh, he's getting Egypt and Libya.
332, the coastal cities of Phoenicia submitted to Alexander, ending Persian naval power in the Mediterranean. But the island city of Tyre resisted. Tyre's defenders fought bravely and skillfully, even when Alexander began building a causeway to the island, protected by 2 giant siege towers, which they counterattacked with fire ships. But after 7 months, the city walls were breached and Tyre fell. Most of its citizens were killed or enslaved. Gaza, too, was taken by siege.
Man, I was just saying how, you know, I guess they only treat the rich people good. Because, you know, the plebeians, the poor people, they enslave them. Wow.
Alexander continued to Pelusium on the Nile Delta, where the Persian governor of Egypt surrendered the entire province to Alexander, along with the royal treasury.
He got the spoils.
At Memphis, priests of this ancient land welcomed Alexander as their liberator from Persian rule and crowned him pharaoh. At the mouth of the Nile, he founded a new city, Alexandria, then traveled to the desert oracle of Siwa, where according to some accounts the priests welcomed him as son of Amun, king of the gods.
Wow.
Alexander returned east to Tyre, where in 331 BC he received news of trouble back home. Despite his great victories over the Persians, many Greeks regarded Alexander as a tyrant. King Agis of Sparta, with Persian support, now launched a revolt against Macedonia. Antipater, Alexander's commander in Greece, was already dealing with rebellion in Thrace. But he quickly marched south and met Agis in battle near the city of Megalopolis. Even the legendary Spartans were now no match for Macedonian military power.
He's fighting on the home front and overseas.
Crushed. King Agis himself was among the fallen. With his base in Greece secure once more, Alexander advanced towards the Persian heartlands, seeking a final showdown with Darius. He received
this man is fighting out wars on 2 fronts and winning. And it seems like he always had the least amount of people to do it. That took some military skill
and
and leadership.
The Persian king, offering him a fortune in gold, his daughter in marriage, and half his empire in exchange for peace. But Alexander's stunning victories, all the oracles and acclamations, had now convinced him that his destiny was to rule the world. He rejected the Persian king's offer. He didn't want half the empire.
He wanted it all.
He was coming to take it all. Research and artwork for this video comes from Osprey Publishing's extensive range of books on ancient...
Man, well, I kind of know how it feels, but to sit there for months at a time knowing there's a force coming at you and you're losing at every single turn, but you know they're coming, and you don't know how they're going to treat you, especially if you're poor. Possibly if you're rich, you're going to get treated a little differently. You have the money, obviously, because when they capture the king's wife and children, he treat them well. Then the actual people, those who are actually out there fighting and carrying on, they were enslaved. They got labor. That is crazy, man. This is a good series, y'all. I gotta admit, I'm enjoying this series. It's a good series. Enjoying it because it's history, I guess, you know. But anyway, man, thank you guys for watching this with me and thing, you know. And I'm gonna continue doing this series on Alexander because I'm enjoying this. Yes, I am. But you know, hey, take care of each other, all right? Cool runnings. Oh, by the way, and I keep forgetting to say it, I'll leave a link in the description for this video. So get down there and check them out, because I think they have other series there that you could watch and, you know, learn some history and stuff, or brush up on or refresh your memory on it and thing, all right? Cool runnings.